Hey, what's up, and welcome to Moonstone Witchery, our YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. My name is Rian Locker, and I'm the head witch over here at Moonstone Witchery. I wanted to make our first video about signs that you're a witch, because this is one of the questions that I get asked the most on my Instagram page. It's where you can find me over at moonstone_witchery over on Instagram. So signs and symptoms that you're a witch. How do you know that witchcraft is something within you, that witchcraft is something that you have access to, that you actually can be a witch? These are the things that I'm going to cover in this video. What does it even mean to be a witch? So first and foremost, a lot of people who are like skeptical or doubters or kind of it's blowing their mind that witchcraft is even taking off right now will message me and say, is witchcraft real? To that, I want to say, obviously, yes, of course, witchcraft is real. Witchcraft in the way that it's been portrayed by the media as something evil, negative, and wrong, well, that's a whole other topic. That's a whole other story. That's not what we're going to cover today, but that's not the kind of witchcraft that we're all talking about. Witchcraft is something that is inherent within you. It's all about harnessing the energy that you carry within you. It's all about accessing the power that you have, that you know you have, just flowing through you and channeling through you, and how to work with that power. Some signs that you're a witch are not just that you are capable of performing and executing these like really intense spells at the drop of a hat. That takes learning, that takes practice, that takes actual like working in witchcraft. But there are signs way before you learn how to do a spell that witchcraft is your calling, or that witchcraft is your essence, or it's something within you. And that's what I'm going to cover here today. So one of the very first signs that you are a witch, or that witchcraft belongs to you and you belong to it, is that you've always felt like there's just something more to life. You've always felt like there's just like an undercurrent of maybe magic or energy or just power underneath the surface of everything that happens and everything that is. You've looked at experiences and you've said to yourself, I know there's a way that this experience could be different, or that I could somehow influence this experience if only I knew how. You feel as if there's just a lot more happening than what people are commenting on or talking about. You'll be in a situation and you'll wonder why people aren't really like connecting in the way that you do. You feel things very deeply. You connect to things very deeply. You maybe analyze or assess things very deeply, and you are aware of the energy of situations and circumstances in a way that maybe other people are not. And that's one of the biggest signs that you have witchcraft as part of your calling. On a side note, there's a lot of discussion in the witchy communities about ancestral heritage and lineage in witchcraft, and if you can be a real witch if you don't have lineage or ancestral connections to witchcraft. To that I want to say yes, you can absolutely be a real witch without knowing that you have it in your lineage. That's my perspective on the topic. There's other practitioners that might look at it differently, that might think about it differently, but for me, there's two reasons why I say yes. One, we are all children of the universe. We are all children of this energetic plane. We have all been incarnated from the energy realm into the tangible reality that we exist in right now, and therefore we all have access to that unlimited and infinite energy field. It's just a matter of knowing that we have that access and utilizing it. But the second argument I make to the lineage debate is that who knows what our ancestry really is. We can only trace it so far back, and quite honestly, witchcraft is the root of like all humanity. Witchcraft, nature-based practices, using the energy field to your advantage, that's like the inherent gift that we are all born with. So we are really all, in essence, witches. We all have access to that. We are all related to people who have harnessed that power and utilized it in the way that I hope to teach and share with you how to do that on this channel. So lineage is important for some. It's not as important to me. You can still be a witch without knowing your lineage. That's a real thing. The next thing that I want to talk about in terms of signs that you're a witch is that you've never really connected to an organized religion. Now, this doesn't mean that you've never really been drawn to an organized religion. So a lot of witches were really drawn into certain religions because they were looking for something. They were looking for something to feed that spiritual side of them. They were looking for something to give them answers to the questions that they just carry around with them all the time. They were looking for the truth. And they never necessarily found it in any organized religions. You might have been drawn in and you might have chosen to leave a religion, or you might still be in a religion and be questioning it because it's not really resonating with you on the same level, to that same depth that we talked about before. Just because you're in one religion doesn't mean you can't be attracted to or working in witchcraft. Witchcraft makes room for everything. And if you've never been drawn to an organized religion, that in and of itself is another sign, because you've just known inherently that it wasn't right for you. But yet you've always maintained or carried this knowing or searching or seeking or inner quest for knowledge, inner quest for truth, or an inner quest for understanding about what is it that's happening here. Why are we all like alive? What's going on energetically between us all? Why do I feel the things I feel? Why do I think the thoughts I think? What is actually happening beneath the surface of what I'm being shown? These are the questions that lead you to religion, and these are the questions that belong to a witch. So if you found yourself really in contemplation about the nature of like life itself, that's a big sign that you belong on the path of witchcraft. The third thing is that you have always felt like everything has its own innate energy field. So perhaps you've been aware that like natural objects, sticks and rocks and trees and things of that nature have their own energetic capacity. They emanate their own field. They radiate something that you're aware of. When I was a small child, I would always be very attached to even just inanimate objects. And I knew they weren't alive and I knew they weren't real, but my attachment was to the energy field that they had, or the auric capacity that they were putting out. And I was attached to what was beneath the surface of everything. If you've found that you've always been aware of the energy field of people and places and objects, that's another sign that you have been called to witchcraft. And this leads me to my fourth point, which is that you are typically an empath. If you are a witch, being an empath almost goes hand in hand. It doesn't have to, but it almost always does. I don't want to say all witches are empaths, but I want to say a lot of empaths have the capacity to choose witchcraft and be very successful at it. An empath is somebody who can feel the feelings and thoughts and energy emitted by other people and places and objects. Witches can do this, and then they utilize what they're picking up on to their advantage for their spell work and for the way that they interact with the world. We're going to talk in another video about what being an empath is and how to kind of function in life as an empath, so you can stay tuned for that. But for right now, if you identify as an empath and you're curious or interested in witchcraft, understand that those two things really blend together absolutely beautifully. The next sign that you might be called to witchcraft is that you sort of have always felt like you are able to create or manifest things. If there's ever been something that you've like wished for or wanted, even if it's something small, like I just wish this person would call me, or I wish I would, see a puppy, or whatever it might be, if you have been able in your past to kind of quickly and easily manifest or create certain things that you've wanted, that's a huge sign that you are tapped into your power as a witch. Some people do come into this world or into this life born with more of their power activated than others. That doesn't mean necessarily they're better or worse than anybody else. It's just like somebody being born with the capacity to do math a little easier than somebody else. Anybody can learn it. It's just a matter of what you come into this life awakened to. We all have different gifts in those capacities. But if you're somebody who is kind of able to manifest certain things that she wants, that's a definite sign that witchcraft is going to be something that you can access and work with in a pretty easy way, and that it's part of your calling. Anything that is easy for us, anything that we're naturally gifted at, anything that we're naturally skilled at is part of the calling of who we are. Please don't mix up your calling with what you're supposed to do as a career necessarily, though. I think in our culture, a lot of times we get really confused with things that we're good at versus things that we're supposed to like make a lot of income from, and that can suck the joy out of the thing that we're good at. And what I want you to do is to just have awareness around the things that you're skilled at and allow them to just exist, and allow yourself to be good at something without having to like capitalize on it so much. So think with yourself back over your life and over the times when things have worked out well for you, and ask yourself, did I manifest that? Did I play a part in creating that? Because if so, that's another sign that your inner witch is like activated. The next sign that you are drawn to witchcraft is that you're able to notice signs and synchronicities around you. If you are able to kind of have awareness around coincidence or when weird things happen, or you can pick up on patterns between situations, like you're like, this is just like that other thing that happened, and you can kind of make those connections, that's a huge part of witchcraft. Witches are really skilled at reading the signs and reading the synchronicities. A lot of casting a spell into the universe is dependent upon being able to read how it manifests, or read how the spell is being cast in order to understand the way in which the spell is going to manifest. So if you're already adept at noticing the signs and synchronicities around you in your everyday life and in all the things that are already going on, that's going to translate beautifully to your witch work. Also, witches are naturally kind of more spiritually connected, which is really what we've been talking about the whole time. I've just broken it down into pieces so that you can identify them. But fundamentally, this is about being spiritually connected, right? And so if you're naturally spiritually connected, what's happening is you're going to see and receive and feel and be aware of the signs that you're getting all the time from your guides or your angels or loved ones who have departed. They're just around you always. Signs can show up as anything. They can show up as music. They can show up as actual signs. They can show up as a phone call from somebody that you weren't expecting. There's a lot of ways signs can manifest. And if you are good at seeing those things, that's another indication that witchcraft might be a path for you to walk. The next one is a little bit interesting. It requires a little bit of like stepping outside of your ego and having just a little bit of honesty with yourself, but not getting into like narcissism too much. It's that you can have awareness that you might tend to have a power over other people. If you know that there's something about you that is alluring or charismatic or charming to others, or that you are able to sort of be persuasive in your own way, or that you just have this ability to kind of get what you want or create situations that work out well for you or for others that you're working for on their behalf, that's a definite innate sign that you have been born into this life with witchcraft, and that you are able to utilize those skills to work through it. It looks like it went off. Is it off? Okay, well, we're going to have to edit that part out. The next sign is that you sort of tend to enjoy the darker side of things. I know that's kind of weird, and I don't want to buy into the whole topic of like witches being evil or anything like that. But what I want to say is that witches work in both realms. Witches work in the shadow and the light. Witches work in all kinds of capacities. A witch has to be willing to face death and to deal with death, and a witch has to be willing to face life and to deal with life. And so for you to be able to enjoy and understand the darker side of things, or the creepier side of things, it's not to say that witches only dabble in the shadow side or only work in the shadow, but it's to say that a witch is someone who's comfortable in all realms because she understands the wheel of life, and she understands the capacity at which everything kind of works. She's not afraid of the shadow. I did say enjoy the darker side because to me, and I get some debate about this, but if you've been on my Instagram at all, you understand this about me. I think that there's an important part of having humor when things are tough. I think that enjoying the darker side, or being willing to laugh or find the joy that is inherent in all things, is very important. And I think a lot of witches who are successful operate that capacity, and they work in that way because we can't get too attached to and submerged in the darkness or the light. We're unable to fully immerse in any of those things because of the fact that we know that everything is transient and everything is going to be both there and gone in a moment. And so for us to enjoy the darker side means that we are able to laugh at things that might otherwise be a little bit overwhelming because we understand the cyclical nature of everything. Now, a lot of what I just said is based on a lot of self-work, so if you're not there yet, that's okay. But if you're someone who just kind of has like that darker sense of humor, or has always been drawn to thinking about and attaching to things that other people consider to be dark, I want to say that's okay, and that's part of your calling speaking through you. Along with that, this goes right into that, is that if you are someone who's always been a deep thinker, very philosophical, interested in learning more about everything, interested in connecting to the deeper questions, interested in studying old religions or paganism or different pantheons of gods and goddesses, if you've been called to really dive into philosophy or any of those topics but just never really knew what to do with it, that's the inner witch in you wanting to study. I mean, a witch's bookshelves are full of information, and some of that information might seem completely unrelated, but it's not, because it all comes into play at some point or another. A witch has a curious mind. She wants to learn, she wants to evolve, she wants to grow, she wants to know as much as she can. And so if that's you, and if that's something that you've always been drawn to, consider yourself, initiated into the path of witchcraft, because that's really one of the fundamental things that it takes. Again, if you've also been just interested in all things spiritual, clearly that's a sign as well. Are you into tarot cards? Are you into astrology? Are you interested in reading, doing divination in any capacity, whether it's with a pendulum or checking a crystal ball or scrying in a mirror or using tea leaves, whatever it might be? If you've always kind of wished that it was real, I have good news for you. It is. And I want to say that inner wishing is actually the witch inside of you seeking to connect to this world in that way. Anything you're interested in is your calling. And so what I want to say is that the very fact that you're watching this video, or the very fact that you're interested in learning more about this topic, or the very fact that you're called to something spiritual, means that it's meant for you. You can't be interested in something that doesn't exist within you. You literally can't think about or be drawn to or fascinated by or have a longing towards something that's not already in you. The very thing within you that's calling for that external thing is your validation. So what I'm saying is, there is an inner witch already living in you if you're watching this video, or if you have any interest in the topic whatsoever. And she has been saying to you, let me out, I'm part of you, I want to exist, I want to live in the world. You have this whole power within you that can be activated if you follow it. And this is why I always teach people that the most important thing for you to do in your life is to follow your joy. Because your joy, your interests, your passions will lead you to become fully self-actualized and to really step into the life that you're meant to have. So if you have an interest in astrology, tarot, witchcraft, crystals, anything like that, that's because you're meant for it. That's because you're innately skilled at it, you're innately good at it, you're going to succeed, and you're going to have a lot of connection in that realm or in that world just because you follow it. So congratulations, if you've made it to this part of the video, you found out that you are a witch. You don't need signs that you are one. The very fact that you're watching this video shows you that you are one and that you belong here. And so all you have to do next is to follow your path. I like to say the path unfolds as you walk it. That means that every witch's path is going to be different. There's no one right way to witchcraft. There's many different kinds of witchcraft. We'll talk about that later. But your path is going to belong to you. And as long as you follow your heart and you follow your interests and you follow your skills, you can't go wrong. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I want you to please subscribe to my channel and like my video and leave me a comment if you can. If you hit me up over on Instagram and let me know you subscribe to my YouTube channel, I will give you a follow back. And I appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate all the messages I get, and I appreciate the comments that you leave. And I'm looking forward to making more videos for you guys. So thanks for watching.